Meghan Markle's shocking humiliation in Geneva finally proves that she has just gone mad.
Meghan Markle arrived in Geneva expecting headlines about children's online safety. But within hours, the entire internet was talking about something completely different. Not her speech. Not the World Health Organization event. Not the serious issue she claimed to be fighting for. Instead, people became obsessed with three shocking moments that completely hijacked the narrative. First, the awkward crowd footage that critics say exposed a brutal reality about her popularity. Then, an Instagram post involving her daughter that triggered accusations of hypocrisy almost instantly. And finally, one tiny gesture at the end of her speech that sent social media into absolute meltdown. But here's the part nobody expected. Individually, each controversy looked small, almost harmless. Together, they created a PR storm so massive that Meghan's actual message completely disappeared. And the worst part is, this may have revealed a much deeper problem that's been quietly growing around Meghan for years. Because Geneva didn't just become another embarrassing headline. According to critics, it exposed the exact reason why every major Meghan Markle appearance now turns into controversy. So what really happened in Geneva? And why are people calling this her most damaging public appearance yet? Let's break it all down. Meghan Markle's Geneva appearance was supposed to be different. This was meant to be serious, professional, global. The kind of moment that would finally silence critics who claim she relies more on celebrity attention than real humanitarian work. The event itself sounded important on paper, a major discussion connected to children's online safety, artificial intelligence, harmful algorithms, social media addiction, digital exploitation of minors. These are real issues, serious issues. And Meghan wasn't appearing alone. She stood alongside officials connected to the World Health Organization near Geneva's famous Broken Chair Monument, one of the most recognizable international landmarks in the city. Everything about the setup looked carefully designed to send one message. Meghan Markle is no longer just a celebrity. She's operating in global policy spaces now. For years, Meghan and Harry have tried to position themselves as international advocates, rather than former royals living off headlines. This event looked like proof of that transition. The location was prestigious. The topic was emotionally powerful. The visuals looked diplomatic and important. And for a brief moment, it seemed like the strategy might actually work. But then the internet did what the internet always does. It stopped listening to the speech and started analyzing everything around it instead. Within hours, clips from the event exploded across social media, and suddenly, the focus shifted away from children's safety completely. People weren't discussing her arguments. They were discussing the crowd. Or more specifically, the lack of one. Videos circulating online showed pedestrians casually walking past while Meghan was speaking. Some people didn't even glance in her direction. Tourists continued taking photos nearby. Cars passed normally. Foot traffic moved as if nothing major was happening. Critics immediately jumped on the footage. Screenshots started spreading everywhere. People zoomed in on empty-looking areas. Others compared the atmosphere to celebrity events where crowds normally gather instantly. And that's when the comparisons began. Just days earlier, Princess Catherine had appeared at public events in Italy surrounded by massive crowds and huge public enthusiasm. Social media users instantly placed the footage side by side. On one side, packed streets and cheering crowds. On the other, Meghan speaking while random pedestrians appeared uninterested. Now, to be fair, these were completely different types of events. One was a royal walkabout, the other was a policy discussion. But social media rarely cares about context. It cares about visuals, and visually, the contrast looked brutal. Critics claimed the footage proved something Meghan and Harry never wanted to admit. That much of their global attention originally came from the royal family itself, not from them individually. According to that argument, once the royal titles stopped being the main attraction, the crowds stopped too. Whether that's true or unfair doesn't even matter anymore. Because once a narrative catches fire online, facts become secondary to perception, and perception was quickly turning against her. The tragic irony: the actual issue Meghan came to discuss, children's digital safety, was already disappearing from public conversation. Almost nobody was debating her speech. Instead, everyone was debating her relevance. And unfortunately for Meghan, things were about to get even worse. Because the second controversy hit only hours later, and this one was far more damaging. Before Meghan even arrived at the event, she posted a photo that seemed harmless at first glance. A soft, personal family moment. The image showed Meghan preparing for the day ahead, while her daughter appeared nearby in what she described as a sweet mama's little helper moment. Normally, this kind of content performs extremely well online. It feels personal, relatable, warm, exactly the kind of carefully controlled celebrity content modern audiences engage with emotionally. But this time, people noticed something else. In the background of the image, the outfit Meghan planned to wear at the Geneva event was perfectly visible. The blazer, the shoes, the styling. Critics immediately accused her of staging the image strategically. And then came the accusation that changed everything. Hypocrisy. Because only hours later, Meghan stood on stage warning about the dangers of exposing children online. She spoke emotionally about protecting children from harmful digital environments, about online exploitation, algorithmic systems, the risks of social media exposure. And yet critics pointed out something uncomfortable. Her own 4-year-old daughter had just appeared on an Instagram account, followed by millions of people. Suddenly, the entire internet focused on one question: how can someone criticize children's online exposure while simultaneously posting their own child online? That question spread incredibly fast. And unlike the crowd debate, this criticism wasn't only coming from anti-Meghan commentators. Some of it came from people who actually agreed with her broader message about digital safety. That made the backlash far more dangerous. Because when critics use your own arguments against you, defending yourself becomes extremely difficult. Even people sympathetic to Meghan struggled to explain the contradiction. Supporters argued the child's face wasn't fully shown. Critics responded that partial visibility changes nothing when millions of strangers still engage with the image. Others argued Meghan was simply sharing a normal parenting moment. Critics countered that ordinary parents don't share those moments with audiences the size of entire countries. And this is where the situation spiraled. The internet no longer cared about the speech itself. Instead, everyone focused on whether Meghan's behavior matched her message. And once again, perception became the real story. The timing made everything worse. If that Instagram post had appeared weeks earlier, maybe nobody would have cared. If the speech had focused on another topic entirely, maybe nobody would have connected the dots. But posting a family image involving a child on the same day as a speech about protecting children online, that created a contradiction critics couldn't stop talking about. The conversation exploded across YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. Reaction channels analyzed every detail. Comment sections became war zones. People debated whether Meghan genuinely believed what she was saying, or whether the entire event was performative branding. And unfortunately for her team, the controversy still wasn't over. Because then came the smallest moment of the entire event, a tiny gesture lasting only seconds. But somehow, it became one of the biggest talking points of the entire week. At the very end of Meghan's speech, something strange happened. Not dramatic, not scandalous, not even unusual. She briefly touched her nose. That's it, a completely ordinary human reflex. The kind of thing most people do unconsciously hundreds of times a day. But this is Meghan Markle. And in today's internet culture, even the smallest gesture can become a viral obsession. Within hours, clips of the moment spread everywhere. People slowed the footage down frame by frame. Some claimed she looked nervous. Others claimed emotional. Others insisted it revealed stress, discomfort, or panic. Entire threads appeared trying to decode the meaning behind a split-second movement. The truth? Nobody actually knows what it meant. And realistically, It probably meant absolutely nothing. But that didn't stop the speculation machine. Because by this point, the Geneva appearance had already become controversial. The crowd clips were everywhere. The Instagram backlash was exploding. Comparisons to Princess Catherine were dominating discussions. So when the nose-touch clip appeared, it became another piece of fuel thrown directly onto the fire. And this reveals something important about modern celebrity culture. Once public opinion starts shifting negative, audiences begin analysing everything through that lens. Neutral moments stop looking neutral. Ordinary behaviour suddenly feels suspicious. Tiny gestures become evidence. And social media algorithms love this kind of content because controversy keeps people watching longer. That's exactly what happened here. The more people debated Meghan's appearance, the further attention moved away from the original purpose of the event. Children's online safety became background noise. The actual policy discussion disappeared entirely. Instead, the internet became obsessed with Meghan herself. Ironically, the very problem she warned about. Online amplification, algorithmic obsession, viral engagement cycles ended up consuming her own appearance in real time. And critics noticed that irony immediately. Some even argued the Geneva disaster perfectly demonstrated why modern online discourse is impossible to control. No matter how carefully planned the event was, the internet chose its own narrative instead, and Meghan lost control of the conversation completely. But underneath all the viral clips and internet drama, a much deeper issue was starting to emerge. Because according to many observers, Geneva exposed a structural problem that has followed Meghan for years. A problem no speech or PR strategy can easily fix. Here's where the Geneva controversy becomes bigger than one embarrassing week. Because critics argue this wasn't an isolated disaster. It was a symptom of something deeper. Meghan Markle is currently trying to operate in multiple public identities at the same time. And, according to observers, those identities are starting to clash with each other publicly. First, there's Meghan, the humanitarian advocate. This version speaks at international organizations, discusses policy issues, and positions herself as a serious global voice. That image requires credibility, consistency, discipline. People need to believe the messenger fully. But then there's another version. Meghan, the lifestyle celebrity, the Instagram aesthetics, the carefully staged personal moments, the fashion visibility, the commercial branding. That version depends on attention. It depends on visibility and emotional engagement online. And those two worlds don't always work together smoothly. Because humanitarian credibility often requires restraint. Celebrity branding requires exposure. That contradiction sits at the center of nearly every Meghan controversy now, and Geneva exposed it more clearly than ever. Critics argued the Instagram photo completely undermined the seriousness of the speech. Meanwhile, supporters argued she's unfairly criticized for behavior other celebrities regularly get away with. But regardless of which side people chose, one fact became impossible to ignore. The humanitarian message never became the main story. The celebrity narrative consumed it completely. And then there's a third layer, complicating everything even further. The royal history. No matter what Meghan does now, audiences still view her through years of accumulated controversy. The Oprah interview, the Netflix documentary, the family accusations, the palace conflict, the media wars. All of it follows her into every new appearance. That means even neutral events arrive with emotional baggage already attached. And once that happens, every appearance becomes vulnerable to narrative collapse. Geneva demonstrated exactly how quickly that collapse can happen. A crowd clip becomes evidence of declining relevance. An Instagram photo becomes evidence of hypocrisy. A nervous gesture becomes evidence of emotional instability. Individually, each issue is manageable. Together, they become overwhelming, and perhaps that's the real reason this event turned into such a disaster online. Not because any single controversy was catastrophic, but because all of them reinforced each other simultaneously. Every new criticism strengthened the previous one, and by the end of the week, Meghan was no longer controlling the narrative at all. The internet was controlling it for her. That's an incredibly dangerous position for any public figure, especially one trying to transition into serious humanitarian advocacy. Because credibility becomes fragile once audiences stop focusing on your message and start focusing entirely on your contradictions. And unfortunately for Meghan, Geneva may have confirmed that this problem is getting worse, not better. Despite all the backlash, one important point needs to be acknowledged. The issues Meghan discussed are real. Children's online safety matters. Algorithmic addiction matters. The mental health impact of social media on young people matters. None of those concerns suddenly become invalid because the event became controversial. But in public life, perception often matters as much as substance. And right now, Meghan faces a very difficult challenge. Can she separate her advocacy work from the controversy constantly surrounding her personal brand? That's the real question Geneva raised. Because this wasn't just about one speech. It was about whether audiences still trust the consistency between Meghan's words and actions. Public trust is incredibly hard to rebuild once contradictions become the dominant storyline. And unfortunately, Geneva added fuel to an already existing perception problem. Now, to be fair, reputations can change. Public figures recover from bad periods all the time. But recovery usually requires one thing above everything else: consistency. Not one successful speech. Not one emotional interview. Not one perfectly staged appearance. Consistency over years. Audiences need repeated evidence that behavior aligns with messaging. And critics argue Meghan hasn't achieved that alignment yet. That's why Geneva became so damaging, because instead of resolving doubts about her public image, it intensified them. The humanitarian advocate image collided directly with the celebrity influencer's image. And the collision happened publicly in front of millions of people online. Still, it's possible this controversy fades with time. Internet outrage cycles move quickly. Next month, another scandal will dominate headlines. But the deeper structural issue remains. Every future Meghan appearance will now face the same risk. Will people focus on the message or on Meghan herself? That may determine whether her long-term advocacy ambitions succeed or fail. Because once audiences stop separating the cause from the celebrity, every humanitarian appearance risks becoming another culture war spectacle instead of a serious conversation. And Geneva may have proven how difficult that problem has become. The bigger question now is whether Meghan's team recognizes the scale of the issue. Because if they treat Geneva as just another temporary PR problem, they may completely miss what actually happened. This wasn't simply backlash, it was a warning sign. A moment revealing how fragile the current public perception around Meghan has become. And unless that perception changes, future appearances may keep following the exact same pattern. A serious issue gets announced. The internet shifts focus to Meghan personally. Controversy overwhelms the message, and the original purpose disappears completely. That's the cycle critics believe Geneva exposed, and breaking that cycle may require far more than better PR. It may require rebuilding public trust from the ground up. So now the question goes to you. Do you think Meghan Markle can still rebuild her image as a serious humanitarian advocate? Or has the controversy surrounding her become too powerful for people to separate from her public appearances anymore? Was Geneva genuinely misunderstood by the internet? Or did it expose contradictions people were already starting to notice for years? And most importantly, do you think the problem is Meghan herself, the media coverage around her, or the impossible pressure of modern social media culture? I want your honest opinion in the comments below, because this debate is getting bigger every single week. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to subscribe and turn notifications on, because the next few months around Meghan and Harry are already shaping up to be extremely dramatic. And trust me, this story is far from over.